Hey everyone, it's Mike with InflatableBoarder.
And Bill from SUPboard Guide.
And we've been working together on a little bit of a regional road trip here through the Southwest US recently. And we just last week did a trip to Antelope Canyon in northern Arizona. Bill, what did you think about this trip?
Because I had absolutely no idea what to expect, I was kind of like, yeah, I've paddled in canyons before. But I got to say, Mike, it blew my mind.
Yeah.
It was a stunning trip that I reckon every paddleboarder should do. That's a bucket list paddle right there.
We're here in Antelope Canyon, and we've paddled just over 1.5 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And it's how do you like it so far?
I've had worse. This is unbelievably scenic and beautiful. Really, really cool. The colours, the backdrop, everything's just extraordinary. This is an offshoot of Lake Powell, is it?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
right,
This is part of Lake Powell. So where we started was actually Lake Powell.
Okay.
And then we've kind of come into the side canyon here.
Yeah.
So we left Page this morning at around about 7 o'clock
Yeah.
ish. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And got on the water about 7:45, and as we were getting on, there were, what do you think, 30, 40 kayaks at least lined up for the commercial trips getting ready to start any minute.
Yeah.
So I would say that if you want to get out here and have a little bit of relative peace, quiet, and alone time, you'd probably want to be on the water by 7:30.
I reckon
for
that's
sure.
pretty good.
Yeah. But yeah, gorgeous.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
And we've only been in the canyon for about half a mile. So
Yeah. If that. Yeah.
So this progresses all the way to a super tight slot canyon that you have to go that you have to walk sideways to fit through. That's the upper part of it. Yeah. But we probably won't get that far.
Well, you need to really know how to do it.
I am a little bit biased because I'm from the Southwest, I live here, but I think desert paddling and paddling through canyons like this, it's one of the more unique experiences you can have. How does that fit into your experience as an international traveling paddler who's been all over the world?
It's funny, everywhere you go, you have a unique experience. It tends to be with paddleboarding. But I think you're right. The desert has something unique about it. There's a stillness, there's a serenity to it. Some of that paddling, especially because we got out nice and early before the crowds, it was almost spiritual. You're just there paddling along over beautiful serene water, looking up at the colours on the rock, and you just drift off and just think, oh my god, I'm so privileged to be here. I mean, it worked out so well that we just coming back from having our walk up the canyon, just as the first wave of commercial operations came around the corner, and they're all yakking away at the top of their voice about the ball game or whatever, and the atmosphere just changed instantly, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so definitely that top tip on that one, get there early.
While we were there, we stopped, we did take a break and chatted for a bit, but there really wasn't a lot of good places to stop in the canyon until you got to the end of the canyon.
Yeah.
And that was kind of abrupt.
Yeah.
It really
that's
just ended, right?
Yeah. You just come around a corner and then there's a little beach about like 100 yards ahead of you, and that's it. The canyon, the water bit stops. But then the walk starts and you just leave your board on the beach there and you hike up the canyon, and it becomes more and more of a slot, doesn't it? And the scenery certainly doesn't stop, even though the water stopped.
Yeah. And so we did, altogether, that first leg of the trip was about 2.5 miles, the 1 mile in the lake, the 1.5 miles in the canyon.
Yeah.
And then we got out, we walked, we did about another 1.5 miles of walking.
Yeah.
And then got back to our boats. Like you said, that's when we saw the big influx of the...
the world's supply of paddleboarders, kayakers just came around the corner there, and it's just, oh my goodness. Thank goodness we got out just in time.
Yeah.
And then pretty much all the way back down the canyon, there were more and more kayakers and boats coming past. There. It was relentless. It's worth considering. We are talking about a 5-mile paddle all up, aren't we?
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't want to do this if you're a complete beginner.
No.
So you need to be able to paddle 5 miles.
And that's a really good point. So 5 miles is it's a good amount, for a nice half-day trip or something.
Yeah.
We were on some fairly advanced paddle boards, some 14-foot boards that were 26 and 28 inches wide.
Yeah.
They were maybe a little too unstable for the return trip because as we got back out on the lake, there was more and more motorboat traffic, and that slush effect just really accelerated.
It just became a completely kind of random washing machine water surface, didn't it? I mean, I tried to paddle standing up for a bit, but it was just it's just too hard. I was happy to get down on my knees for it.
Yeah. Could you do this on an all-around board, like a Red Ride 10.6 or something? Could you do that?
I guess you could. It's just going to take a little bit longer,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah. It would definitely be most fun doing it on a touring type board. That, as you say, 12.6 by 32 would be a really lovely board to do it on. Because you'd also have a little bit of extra flotation, so you could carry your chili bin or whatever. It's got to be. I mean, we were out 3 hours altogether, were we?
Oh, probably a little more than that, 3.5. Yeah.
So you're going to need some hydration. Take a snack as well, and obviously you're going to want to take your camera, or at very least your phone. So having that capacity to carry something would be good, I reckon.
Yeah. What other items or skills do you think someone might need for this?
I think it's important to understand that certainly until the amassed hordes of kayakers arrive, you're on your own in a pretty remote part of the country, aren't you? If you fall off your board, you need to be able to get back on.
Yeah.
So you need those basic self-rescue skills because there's not going to be anyone there to help you.
Yeah.
And on that, I would all your normal safety equipment, wouldn't you say?
So definitely a leash, keeping that board nearby, and your PFD. So another thing, as you are getting ready for this trip, not only your timing is important, but checking the weather. And we didn't have any wind, and we still had pretty rough conditions. When you're in these kind of canyons, especially in the summer as the air is heating up throughout the day, you really do get a lot of wind, and it funnels down into the canyon. And even a light breeze at the surface can turn into a pretty strong wind, especially as you're twisting around the meandering part of the canyon.
The river paddling I've done when you're in some sort of gorge, the wind is either on your nose or behind you, isn't it?
Yeah, usually,
there's one or the other.
Almost always right in front of you, no matter which way you're faced. As Bill mentioned, bringing a camera is absolutely highly recommended. I'm a photographer myself, and really enjoy a fair bit of landscape photography. And it was just, it was like being in a candy store. It was great.
It really was. But Mike gave me a really cool piece of advice at the start. He said, "Don't take a picture the minute you hit the great scenery, because it just keeps on getting better. Every corner you go around, it got more and more brilliant, really, didn't it?"
Right. And in this trip in particular, because we got out early, we could enjoy that silence. So. And if you're going to do this to Antelope Canyon, I would highly recommend bringing your camera, but paddle the canyon first and really enjoy that experience, especially if you can get out there ahead of the crowds, because it really is unique. Get to the end of the water portion, go for your hike, take plenty of pictures on your hike, and then take more photos as you're paddling back out. So, Bill, I do have a question for you.
Okay.
Would you do this again?
Yes, I would absolutely. Sorry.
There's a longer pause than I expected.
I was trying to think of an answer that was utterly superlative, like hell yes or whatever, But yeah, absolutely, I'd love to do that again. It was really special. It was really magical.
So that covers most of the details of our trip to Antelope Canyon. And we are going to have more information and more specifics for you about where to go, how to get there, and all of that in our written blog post, as well as in the description for this video, so make sure to check that out. And while you're down there in the description, make sure to give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to our channel and ring the bell. That way you can get notified as we put out more and more of this video content. Bill, do you have any last words?
My question for you, Mike, is what's next, mate? You've set the bar pretty high there. I can't wait to see what paddling adventure you've got lined up for me next.
I can't either, because it's going to be hard to beat that. But we will certainly try, and stay tuned to see what we come up with.
Yeah, and make sure you put this one on your bucket list. You need to paddle Antelope Canyon.